This German church in Berlin was designed by the famous architect Schinkel, and it was built in the very early 1800s. I thought it was simple enough, but challenging enough as a 10-minute daily drawing exercise that we might have a chance to get it done in some measure. I'm using a 0.3 millimeter Copic multi-liner pen if you're interested, and a reminder that you're watching this real time. So I've cut nothing out, and if in the voiceover there are things I need to take out, I haven't affected the play of the real time drawing. So you get to see the time I'm thinking and looking and wondering, what have I done and why have I done it? So I've started by drawing the upper of the, I think of them as the two middle sections that have the large window between. I'm drawing the first one of those, and then I'll draw the second one of those. And I actually can't remember. I think I keep going up the tower then before I jump across the middle space. Before I started doing this, I had a good look to see what was happening at ground level. There's quite a bit of poles and things interrupting the ground level space visually. So I made a note of where they were and worked out that I don't really have to worry about any of them until I get to the level below these two sections that I've drawn. So that I don't need to think about posts and poles until then. And if you're finding this 10-minute real-time drawing daily exercise series helpful, then please, why not hit the like button for me right now? And if you want to know when they're posted, hit notifications as well. So I'm now moving up where we have these triple windows. I imagine there are, or at least were, bells in one of these towers, maybe in both of them at some stage. Now, we are drawing pretty gesturally. My plan is that this tower is the one that, because I'm going to be drawing it more slowly, because it's the first part that I'm drawing, that I take a little more care with the detail here than I will in the rest of the drawing. So as the pace picks up, my detail will become a little less precise than this, but that because this is the detail that the eye will fall on first, it will presume that the other detail is drawn better than it really is. Sometimes there's a bit of psychology in drawing, the psychology of looking. So this is now the space, the line where the base of the center window is. Just a few dotted lines to help me align what I do there. And now position this center window. In some ways, the shapes on this and even the decorations are relatively simple. It's really all about proportion and a challenge in getting the proportions correct. It is a fairly tall, and the effect is that it's a narrow building. I suppose it is narrow, but the size of it really depends on the actual size, on the height, rather than the proportions. So now we have the work in this center window, the divisions and the decorative tops, I think they're lancet window tops, and the way that the now irregular spaces are managed for the tracery that the glass will sit in. So now that I've come across, I can now get this other tower done. However, it is interrupted by this light and light pole, and so I've noticed that I have to draw it first when I did my first observation of the scene before I started drawing. Probably the biggest mistake is I haven't taken this section across enough to the right, and so it's just too narrow. I could probably have put that other line on the other side of the line there, and those proportions would have been closer. So, and I realise that as I start to draw these other towers, and possibly I've actually drawn that light slightly too large as well, which again throws off the perception of the width, because the size of the light versus the width of the tower in the reference is something that's fairly significant in helping to work out what's what. But if I draw my light too large in proportion to what's behind it, then something's not going to look right. And the problem may be the lamp rather than what's behind it. But this tower is probably a good, 4mm too narrow. But very, very gesturally, these angles. Now you'll notice, and this is the sort of detail we need to look carefully to make sure we notice, that the left-hand tower, we can see a little bit more of the foreshortened side of that because it's just visually a little bit further off centre. The tower on the right-hand side, we see very little of that foreshortened side. And so that affects how the spiky corners sit in relation to each other. This is the sort of detail where it's very easy to do one and then to do the other really just referencing what you've already drawn, not the reference. And this is the problem with that we can make assumptions, more presumptions, about what's there based on what we've drawn that simply aren't accurate. So we need to be in the habit of not letting our eyes be away from the reference for too long. It's a relationship we need to nurture through attention and time as we draw. It's not all about the pen. And that's one of the things this daily series, I hope, is useful for. Of course, you will find this reference photo on my channel community page. We've had a run of German and particularly Berlin references as I trawl through my holiday snaps. Now, realising that this is not wide enough and that's going to affect how I position the windows behind in terms of the width. I left off putting them on here because I wasn't quite certain how I was going to manage it. And having left off doing them just at that point, of course, I forgot to do them totally until I'd finished the video, turned off the camera. So they do appear on the thumbnail photo, but I'm afraid you won't see them in this video. And now getting just the lower section done. It's a little bit slower because I know I need to check ground level things. And so I started with the signs. I think there were some people there that I just never got back to that level of detail at street level. But certainly nothing would have stopped me just popping a few in from my imagination if I'd thought of it at the time. I was mostly observing to see how far down the building came. And there's just the leading in the windows to do. I actually messed up my observing. I looked at the reference and I thought, oh, okay, there's just one centre strip of lead going down each half. And then I think, I'll have to bring the sides in a bit or else it'll be too wide. And then as soon as I'd done that, I realised, no, there are two centre strips going down on each half, and I had it just the way it needed to be. And now it wasn't. Don't you just hate that? However, at least it's not a really significant problem. The fact that I'm already unhappy with the right-hand tower means that in some ways I'm not as fussed now, so I can just take a risk and do what I think needs doing. Working out what's the time and what can I do. So that's 10 minutes up. So now we just move into double time while I very quickly draw a bit of context around this building. The extreme perspective angle does give a few challenges. Just makes drawing some of the extra detail a little more challenging to do quickly. Yes, I would have liked a chance to have not done that first line of the roof line. These are the sections that we need really careful observation to get right at any time, let alone to be doing them in extra time and certainly feeling the clock. But equally, we really only have to suggest these details and then the viewer's mind will create suitable reality for them, I suspect, because it is all about the church at the end of the view, at the end of this street. Very close to the reconstruction of the Berlin Palace, just across the River Spree. And a bookend wall on the other side to give a sense of closure. Views at the ends of street really are so often a delight when travelling through European capitals. It's certainly good always to be looking up and down the cross streets. Never know what's going to be at the other end. And it's especially enjoyable if we spy a familiar object, a landmark of some sort, as this was for me when I went past. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. How are you finding these daily drawings? Is anyone keeping up daily? At any rate, they're all on a playlist, so if you know that you haven't done all of them, you can certainly find them easily enough and catch up. But look, whatever you draw, every day or not, whenever you can, whatever you can, however it turns out, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next video. Bye.